Voice of the People is a dynamic and interactive radio phoning show that gives listeners a platform to voice their opinions on current affairs, social issues, and community concerns. With engaging discussions, expert insights, real-time audience participation. Voice of the People.
This is Voice of the People right here on the Power Breakfast on Power 91.3. We are also live on Dstv, channel 92 on Topstar, and we are also live on our social media platform, which is Power FM Zambia. You can be part of the conversation by coming through. That is on 0979-192-485 or 0955-997-997. And we're also live on Dstv audio channel 914 as well as Core TV audio channel 304.
And this morning on Voice of the People, we are joined in studio by Mr. Celestine Mukandila, who is a lawyer, human rights activist, and National Youth Chairman for the Tonse Alliance. He has been at the forefront of mobilizing young people in politics and shaping the governance agenda for the Alliance. Today, we discuss youth participation in governance issues, accountability, and the future of Tonse Alliance. And well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much, colleagues, and thank you very much for having me here.
You are welcome. And now, starting with how the Tonse Alliance has brought together several political parties since 2021, how strong would you say that unity is today, 2025, from 2021?
Well, I believe it's actually stronger than ever because, the coining of the Tonse Alliance is one that has brought a lot of hope to the Zambian people, especially those that thought the political landscape would only be controlled by a minority political parties or by the PF and UPND alone. So with the coming in of the alliance, being Tonse Alliance, I think it has given so much hope to the Zambian people because the alliance is comprised of many sectors, many different political parties, political players, as well as civil society organizations. The church is involved in the alliance. Pressure groups are involved in the alliance. So it's a grand alliance that actually also involves other alliances. So we're looking at a scenario where colleagues came together to look at the future of the country and appreciate that democracy should thrive in this country, and also appreciate that the rule of law must be respected in real terms as the rule of law being respected. Of course, when you look at the composition of the alliance itself, it should be able to give a breath of fresh air where you are going to believe that at least we're heading to a place where everybody can get together, devoid of your political affiliation, devoid of your tribe or race or creed, as the case may be. So ideally, the Tonse Alliance has come in to bring to light a space which is all-encompassing, one which unites the country in the real sense of unity.
And some critics might say that the alliance is more of a marriage of convenience than a shared vision. How do you respond to that?
Well, in as much as those that would try and indicate that it's a marriage of convenience, the reality is Dr. Edgar Lungu decided to come back into active politics on the premise of coming to defend the democracy that we seem to have been losing, on the premise of restoring the rule of law, on the premise of realizing that we are experiencing a governance system that is hell-bent on ensuring that there is an agenda to have a one-party participatory democracy. So he indicated that in the vein of ensuring that we try and regain our status both at regional level in Africa and global level as a pioneer of proper democracy, he needed to get back into active politics, and he called on all well-meaning Zambians. That included those that are in the alliance today. That included even all opposition players in the country, the church, all well-meaning Zambians, to just come and ensure that we create a body, a unit that will be able to save the country from what we are undergoing. So, whether marriage of convenience or not, the reality is we are on a trajectory of uniting the country and regaining what it is that our forefathers fought for during the independence struggle. And just over the years of us fighting for our democracy in 1991 and also just maintaining the status quo of Zambia being a democratic state.
Well, we've seen over time, over the years actually, even this year, how there have been squabbles here and there within the alliance. Are there any clear mechanisms with the alliance or within the alliance that are used to resolve disagreements among member parties?
The reality is the Tonse Alliance is an alliance that is run by a constitution. We've got a constitution that runs the relationships or governs the relationship that exists within the alliance and how the alliance would conduct themselves. So, like any other home, you don't have a home that will be devoid of misunderstandings, which is a normal thing. If you've got a home that is just going to be plain and clear, you should be worried at some point. It means it's not even attractive. Now, an alliance like the Tonse Alliance, it is so attractive that whether we like it or yes, we'll have a bit of some misunderstandings here and there. It's because of its nature, of its attractiveness, you know. But the reality is we remain strong as an alliance and stronger than ever, if I may put it that way.
You did say as we'll be heading to the polls, which is 2026 very soon, and the House does have those disagreements in the House. Now, how are you going to sell it to the people out there to come through for you, let's say 2026, as we are seeing these wrangles in-house?
No, I don't really know at what point we're looking at whatever is transpiring in the alliance as wrangles. I would want to be made aware of those wrangles. But the reality is the Zambian people must know that we mean well for the Zambian people. They must also know that we're here to provide ourselves, to give ourselves unto the Zambian people as an alternative government. Now, it should be seen even by the kind of politics we play. We shall not politicize the things that do not make sense. We'll always be objective as an alliance. And that is the reason why, whatever it is that we bring on the table of the Zambian people, we always speak to facts. For example, we would come and speak to issues of the pollution happening on the Copper Belt. Now, should it have taken the government of the day, for example, to hear information given to the Zambian people from the American embassy before they can openly come and secure the lives of people on the Copper Belt? Now, we'll come in as the Tonse Alliance to speak to issues affecting the Zambian lives. Now, we shall not at any point decide to side with multinationals that do not mean well for the Zambian people. So we'll always want to offer ourselves as an alternative to this government. And that is the reality. We are a government in waiting. Opposition politics is about being a government in waiting, and that is what we are as the alliance. So we have offered ourselves as an alternative to this autocratic government, to this government that does not really know how to take care of the Zambian people, to this government that clearly is hell-bent on just harnessing resources for themselves and not looking at the welfare of the Zambian people. So clearly, for us as an alliance, we're extremely ready. To serve the Zambian people in the best way that we feel the Zambian people deserve to be served.
Once again, do remember that this is Voice of the People. You can call us up. You can send us your messages on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And in studio, we are joined by Mr. Celestine Mukandila, who is a human rights lawyer, human rights activist, and the National Youth Chairman for the Tonse Alliance. So now, looking at how from 2021, many young people feel that the Tonse Alliance has not really fully delivered on its 2021 campaign promises. How do you respond to such criticisms?
Well, the reality is, I don't think this government was ever ready to be in the driver's seat and run the affairs of the Zambian people. Because when you look at the delivery process vis-a-vis the campaign promises this government has made, you'll be able to see that the clear show in terms of success or failure of this government is that they do not know what they're doing. They've never known how to run government. They have been on the mountaintop to promise things that they have failed to achieve. For example, this government came and promised the farmers that they would be buying fertilizer at, is it 200 kwacha or 250 kwacha? But what we are seeing is the exact opposite. This government promised the Zambian people that they would be able to get rid of load shedding. But what we are seeing there is the exact opposite. Now today as we are talking, small businesses are dying. Small businesses are dying because they rely on electricity as a resource in their business ventures, to the extent that we've got a Piri in a market in Vubwi who can no longer use electricity for their barbing job or business. We've got Mungandu in Chama North who can no longer use electricity for their welding business. We've got Hamaundu in Wengwa who can no longer use electricity to ensure that they incubate their eggs properly. So this is where we are. We are dealing with a government that has gone a complete 360-degree turnaround on the promises that they made. Now, skeptics or other scholars would actually tell you that there is an issue which they promised with regards to, for example, partial withdrawal of NAPSA. No one will deny that that is a positive aspects of society, because social security is extremely important to ensure that people should access it. However, that does not deviate from the fact that the cost of living leaves much to be desired. We are living at the highest level of historic level of high cost of living ever in this country, to the extent that we had the leadership currently then as they were in opposition telling the Zambian people that salaries do not increase every month, and yet the cost of living or the cost of commodities are increasing. This is exactly where we are. The cost of fuel, now they told the Zambian people that we shall increase in order to reduce. Concept that is not working for anyone. Ideally, today as we're talking, the fuel prices have been increased. Why? Because we've got colleagues who do not understand what they are doing. When you look at whatever is happening, we've got a citizenry that is affected by the high cost of living. Apart from that, this government now thinks of inflicting more taxes on the citizens. What are we doing? Now, you inflict more taxes on the citizens, and yet you let the multinationals go away on tax holidays. Today, as we are talking, the Minister of Finance, barely a fortnight ago, announced that we will no longer have tax imposed on the exportation of copper concentrate. Who are we trying to impress? Because the reality is, when you look at the fiscal balance of this economy, we should be able to know that the more forex you bring in by way of export taxes, the more balanced your economy will be, and the more balanced your currency is going to be. But we are in a space where this government does not care about the poor people. The gap between the poor and the rich keeps on widening, because the rich do not get any taxes imposed on them. The poor people, as the poor people, we are always infringed upon. Taxes are imposed on us. Today as we are talking, small businesses will have tax impositions on them. Why? Because this government does not care. They simply do not care about the poor people. So the reality is, in as much as they would look at whatever they promised in 2021, the reality is today, when you look at things that are happening, it is a clear show that we're dealing with a capitalist government that does not care about the poor people. The gap between the rich and the poor is so massive. When you look at even the application of law, the poor people are not getting away with anything because they are simply poor. This government does not care. So they only think about the rich, the wealthy. How does it take, for example, more than 4 days for a rich person or a wealthy person to be apprehended on a suspicion of murder? And yet today, if you see a poor person just suspected of anything, They are apprehended. Before you know it, this person is even appearing before court. But where we are today, we've got a society that has created serious divides. This government has created serious divides between the wealthy and the poor. So now, I only hope that as we get to 2021, everybody, everybody in the village, everybody will realize that it is us Fuebapina against Abakankala, because Abakankala, they don't care about us, and they will always come to us to seek for votes, and that's the reality. And we should be there chanting for them, hey, Janza, Janza. Come on. I think we need to get to a point of realizing that Abakankala, tabatu temwa, because they did not tell us the truth. They lied to us. Now they are ruling us. They are imposing things on us to the extent that we've reached the extent where a consent judgment of court is filed into court today. The judge decides to sit on a consent judgment for more than a month. This is a consent. It's an agreement between two parties, for crying out loud. Legal pundits will tell you that where you agree amongst yourselves, no one should, not even the devil should come and stop you from agreeing, because you have agreed. But we're looking at consent judgments that are signed by parties. Up to date, the judges are not signing them. Why have we reached to the extent of compromising the integrity of the judiciary? Why have we reached the extent of compromising the integrity of the rule of law and the will of individuals, constitutionally guaranteed will of individuals? So it is a sad situation, extremely sad. We must, as a nation, cry very hard, because imagine today we've got a government or a leadership that will still talk about reintroducing a bill that has since been ruled by the court that it is illegal. Bill 7 was ruled by the court. In fact, I was on this platform, in this studio, when I had a debate with my comrades. I told them to say, I am actually taking the issue of Bill 7 to court. I am challenging the constitutionality of Bill 7. And my colleague was looking at me thinking it was a mundane exercise. But alas, we succeeded. Bill 7 was ruled to be unconstitutional because it did not live up to the spirit of the Constitution of the Republic. So where we are, the reality is the so-called Bill 7 should no longer be considered as a Bill 7, because it died with the ruling or the judgment of the court in my matter, which is Celestine Mukandila and Munir Zulu versus the Attorney General. So Bill 7 is dead, but we've got a government insisting on abrogating the law.
Sorry to cut you off short. Now, would you say Bill 10 was more of the Zambian constitution?
I think that's where we're missing it. The contents, it's not about the contents that we were looking at, by the way. The contents may be okay, but of course there are certain contents in those bills that I did not support. But the reality is we're looking at the process. The process should define the genuineness, the legitimacy of the constitution making process. So if you are going to look at a document that does not live up to the spirit of the constitution, the spirit that requires that you must consult widely when coming up with any amendment to the constitution, it should not be borne by a clique of hegemonists in cabinet who will just sit and say we are going to give the people this. No, the Zambian people should be able to define what they want to be their constitution, and that is what we said in our argument. We said there is need for consultation to be widely borne, not where just a group of colleagues who are full on taxpayers' tea in cabinet and think they can dictate what Zambians should live up to. No, we want a constitution amendment that will live up to the aspirations of the Zambians, one that will be able to live or stand the test of time. So it should be an all-inclusive process. So if this government insists on reintroducing a bill on the vein of them actually committing contempt of court, and then we're looking at a government that does not care at all about the rule of law. They don't care about the law. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about principles that deal with democratic tendencies such as separation of powers. These are clear principles. Respect the courts because they provide checks and balances. The Constitution is clear. Article 128 gives the Constitutional Court, is it Article 128 or that gives the Constitutional Court the sole mandate of interpreting the Constitution. When they interpret the Constitution, there is nothing that Hakainde can do today to interpret the Constitution in his own way. No, he can't do anything. The only court that has got the mandate to interpret the Constitution is the Constitutional Court. There is nothing that Cornelius Mwetwa can do today. There is nothing that Princess Gazune can do today to interpret that Constitution. There is nothing that Nelly Muti can do to interpret that Constitution. Nothing. The Constitutional Court has given us a position, and the position of the law is that Bill 7 was illegal, unconstitutional, and should never be considered as anything that lives up to the aspirations of the spirit of the Constitution.
It hasn't been dropped though, it has just been debated.
And that is why I am saying we've got a government that is careless. They don't care. They live in contempt. They just do not care about the rule of law, democracy, or anything. Because by now we would have expected that this president, the very way he decided to say, I am deferring Bill 7, is the same way he should have come to say, we have been guided by the courts and therefore we are going back to widely consult. And therefore, this Bill 7 is dropped. It is no more. We'll come up with a new bill following the guidance of the Constitutional Court. But we've got constitutional delinquents occupying the office of president, occupying the office of Speaker of the National Assembly, occupying the office of Minister of Justice, and occupying the office of information. Misinformation is what we are seeing. These are colleagues that decide to show their ignorance of the law and not make decisions based on legal principle, on realistic governance overviews. They just don't care. We've got people who don't care. And if the Zambian people will continue tolerating such individuals in 2026, then we are in for a mess. This country will be a banana republic because these colleagues don't care. By now, we would have expected that this bill is dropped. We've written to them severally. We've taken them to court to using all legal means to tell them to say, colleagues, don't play with our lives. An amendment to the Constitution is an amendment on your life. So you must realize, colleagues, the Constitution guarantees certain aspects of protection on ourselves because we give unto ourselves the Constitution. Now, it also borders on human rights values that have to be protected. They are inalienable. They cannot be separated from you. Now, we've got a governance or a government that doesn't care about that. It's just their way. They sleep today, they dream about abrogating your rights. They will not care. Imagine today a suspect would be kept in custody for over 3 weeks, over 6 weeks without being taken to court. Over what? Misdemeanor offenses, offenses that deal with hate speech and is it whatever it is, insulting or whatever. You keep a suspect for 6 months devoid of the guaranteed constitutional protection of their right to freedom of speech, their right to freedom of expression, their right to just having a fair trial. That is all that we ask for. Treat us fairly. Not because we are poor and you should mistreat us. No, it's not right. We are asking for fair treatment. The law should be blind and it should remain blind. Lady Justice is blind for a reason. Because the law must be applied equitably, devoid of your status, devoid of how many cows or cattle you have. You should be treated on equal footing. You are no more special than myself or you or anyone in the studio. No, we should be equal in the eyes of the law. Now, okay. I'm talking about the issue of
Okay, so just to take a different turn, I would say, following on what you've also touched on, and it's how the youth so far have expected a meaningful representation within the cabinet and also decision making. Yet we still see most senior positions being dominated by older leaders. What exactly, or rather, why exactly has this gap persisted, and how much is it affecting the youth?
It's selfishness on the part of the leadership. And that is why, for me, I will tell you, as Tonse Alliance Youth National Chairman, I will tell you that we have begun a revolution that will ensure that we demand for what is rightfully ours as youths. Today, the reality is the youths are in the majority in this country, and none of these guys can change that, unfortunately. None of them. It was an act of God. God has given us the opportunity to rule this country. This is an opportunity for us as the young people to rule this country. We are in the majority. We should call the shots. That is the reality. Now, we've got a leadership that does not simply care. Why? Because they will come to you and tell you that, no, we want to amend the constitution so that we increase on youth participation and women participation, which is a lie, because we already have that provision in the constitution. So why should they continue lying to us? Are we sure that we are that gullible, that every time it is not right? We are in the majority today, and we should be in the driver's seat to call shots with the guidance of the elders and women. But the reality is the youths today are in the majority. There should be a revolution that is commenced, and it begins now with you and myself, because we are in the majority. So we should be able to tell them, to say, colleagues, I think we're living in an AI generation now, where you need to listen to us as we tell you that there is also cryptocurrency. You can't decide that you're running an economy, for example, that does not recognize the veracity or the importance of cryptocurrency. When you have a government or a minister of justice who wants to run a government on the premise of, is it Frankwood accounting of 1972 or 19 whatever, we're in different era. So now the youth should rise to the occasion and take up their space. We should be able to tell the older generation that we need our space, and we need it now. It should not wait for anyone. We need to be in that driver's seat, because we actually have 70% of this population. It's the young people. So we know what affects us. We know our problems. We know what we want for the future.
So now, seeing as already Zambia has got, I would say, one of the youngest populations in Africa, yet youth voter turnout is quite low, what exactly is the Tonse Alliance doing to ensure that as we head to the polls 2026, that the youth will show up in numbers?
I think it's a different ball game altogether, and I can assure the Zambian people and the youths out there that we shall move out in numbers and show these people that we can actually call the shots. We'll move out in numbers and show everybody that we know what we want. We know the governance system in this country should be run with a voice from the youth. There is nothing that can happen without our engagement or our involvement. So full participation is what that I am calling upon and on to my youths. I am saying the youths today, we need to wake up. Let's understand that leadership is something that can be shared, and the older generation should be ready to pass on to the baton. And I believe the reason why I actually have so much respect for Dr. Edgar Lungu is because he saw it fit that youth leadership is extremely important in this country. And that is why I found myself in a space where I was given an opportunity to be in the driver's seat of the youth movement in the country. The opposition youth movement is going to be run in a very smooth way, realizing that every youth deserves to be given a chance. Every young person deserves to be given an ear, a listening ear, for them to be able to tell the Zambian people or anyone to say, this is my thought, this is the plan that I have, this is how I envision myself in the next 5 years. This is what must be done in order for me to have a free-spirited mind, because we're living in a generation where mental health issues are extremely real. But we need to start having a conversation. Real conversations have to be ignited. Now, they can only be ignited when we give the young people an opportunity to talk. So for me, I'm advocating that young persons, young people should be able to be given an opportunity to talk on governance issues. I'll tell you today, none of these guys may have thought of challenging Bill 7. You know why? Because probably we were busy politicking and not knowing that we've got legal means under which we can use to ensure that we correct the narrative. We stop these people from defiling the democracy that we are enjoying. Now, what did we do? We took it to court. So Bill 7 is dead today. Why? Because of youth participation. And you will actually be able to see that the young people who took Bill 7 to court, myself, even the lawyers that attended to that bill, are young people. It should be able to tell you that there is so much innovation and there is so much willpower for us to start running the affairs of this country. And it's extremely important that everybody should realize we've reached a stage where the young people should take over and control the narrative. Of course, it can only be done with the guidance of the older generation. But what we are saying is, if today President Hakainde will come and tell me that I should take a back seat because no, you are still young and all that, I should be able to tell him that, Bwana, I may be young, but I am more read. I have read and I have understood how it is that I am supposed to do certain things. I know governance has to take certain turns, and I know that it is your time to actually pack and pass on to the baton to me, so that I continue on the path from where you left off, to ensure that we correct the damage that you have caused in this country. So that is the stage we should reach at as a country, where we are going to now rise as the youths and say it is our time. So this is a revolution that has actually begun, and it shall be seen even more as we go forward. And that is the reason why these people are hell-bent on curbing what we say and how we express ourselves by introducing a cybersecurity bill and a cyber bill, which is going to gag most of the young people from talking. Now, an expressive platform that we have as the young people that we are using is social media. Why do they want to stop us?
Just to cut you off short, we do have a text message jumping on the cyber law. The message says the government recently signed a Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act into law. What is your opinion? Do you also think that the government is using it as a tool to stop people from expressing themselves? Exactly
my point. We have a government that does not want to be corrected. And for me, I'll actually tell you that we've got an incorrigible government. They do not want to be corrected. They don't want to oblige to correction. Devoid of the fact that there will be a law or a court order that will be given to say this is wrong, this government will still go on and abrogate court processes. Why? Because they don't care. Now, I will tell you something for nothing. The same cyber bill or cyber security bill, and I want to give them a leakage. This government.
It's a law now.
Yes, the same cyber law. I want to give this government a leakage. As a matter of fact, we're going to be challenging it in court. Now, what we are challenging is not what is before court currently, which Laza has taken to court. What we are going to be challenging now is the commencement of this act, and they will meet us in court. It's going to be public anyway. So what we are going to be challenging is the commencement date of this act. And I can assure you that we shall succeed, because the commencement date of these acts are no executive authority. It's an authority that is given by a person in authority, and therefore it can be challenged by law. And what we'll do is, when we challenge the commencement date, it means we will have stopped the cyber bill or the cyber act from coming into commencement. We'll stop it from there so that they go and rethink as to why they want to stop us from talking on social media.
What particular clauses are you not okay with in the Cyber Act, Cyber Crimes and Cyber Security?
You see, anything that goes against the provisions of the Constitution to do with freedoms of expression, freedoms of privacy, right to privacy, and anything that deals with infringing on your rights to express yourself freely, I don't think I will be for it. Because I'm a constitution.
You're expressing yourself freely right now?
Well, I will tell you that whatever expressions I make, I ensure that they are within the confines of the law, and I will be very, very objective, but we've got a stage. Politics should be very dynamic, as a matter of fact. We should reach a stage where criticism must be accepted. Now, criticism can come in a negative way or in a positive way. Let us reach a point where we receive negative criticism to the extent of having political satire. There's what we call political satire, which must be accepted. Someone should be able to accept being called a cabbage and not arrest someone. Someone should be able to accept being called a Jameson and not arrest anyone. Someone should be able to accept being called Kachema and not arrest anyone. That is where we need to get to. Now, we've reached a point where now we've got a law that will gag you and me from calling anyone cabbage, from calling anyone Kachema, from calling anyone Jameson. Why? Because they feel their emotions should take center stage over getting the objective as to why someone will be able to call them that. Now, governance must be very widely understood. Why? Because there should be a point where when you receive criticism, it's okay. It's political satire. And there are other comments that should be considered as fair comments. So there's nothing wrong with us accepting people to even create comics that show or that depict the way you are running the economy. Comics that depict how you are dressed up as president. There's nothing wrong with that. So I believe we need to get to that point. We need to get to a point of serious tolerance. Look at how the US media space is run. Everybody is free to do what they want because they have a strong governance or institutional protection. That is how it should be. Today, the media is not even free to take a picture of a story that they want to write on at a police station because you will be arrested or detained by the police. Why should it be like that? You are in the media. The fourth estate must be respected. So I think we've reached very dangerous times when for someone to start talking and criticizing this government, they must go out of the country or they must go and seek asylum from a country that respects democracy and start talking on social media. It shouldn't be the case. People should be free to stay in the country. Chilufya Tayali today is out of the country. Why? For criticizing government. Emmanuel Mwamba is out of the country. Why? For criticizing government. Why me decided to run away from the country? Why? Because he wanted to start criticizing government. But we had Emmanuel J. Banda who's run away equally because he wanted to start criticizing. So there are a lot of people who cannot actually even come back to the country, all on the pretext that they want to arrest them for hate speech. They want to arrest them for seditious practice. A very unconstitutional law. By the way, seditious intention, is it? Most of these provisions of the law were actually declared unconstitutional by the High Court. I don't even know why we continue using them. So I think very soon we'll go and remind the Zambian people through court. Again, we can only do it through court, unfortunately. We'll use all legal means. We'll go to court and try and interpret these provisions again with the hope that this government will listen or will respect the law, of which they don't want to respect.
Okay, the phone lines are open. You can come through. The numbers are 0955 997 997 or 0979 192 485, or you can go through to our social media platform and be part of the conversation. Join us in the studio today on Voice of the People. We are joined in by Mr. Celestine Mukandila, who is a lawyer, human rights activist, and the National Youth Chairman for Tonse Alliance. In case you have any comment or question, you might want to come to as we move forward. Now, Zambia has one of the youngest populations in Africa. And now, how do you address the growing frustration among youths who feel that politics in Zambia is recycling the same old leaders? And before you do attend to that question, we do have a caller on the line. Hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast.
Yeah, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm greeting the guest. You're speaking to Rabson, sir.
Rabson who?
One side.
All right, Rabson, go ahead with the contribution.
Yes, the guest there is bringing in a very, very important points, which if followed through can lead to very, very important the transformation. However, I have concern with the manner in which the opposition is running their affairs. They are almost invisible on the ground. In that, they are, from time to time, you hear them. I don't know, I don't have any radio on here, but I'm getting echo. They are not visible. They are not marketing themselves. There are people on the ground here waiting to work with them, but their geographical footprint is almost non-existent. You understand that, like here in Mandevu, I think the structures of your political grouping are not anywhere to be seen. There are people on the ground like myself here who be very willing to work with you so that we push this agenda forward. But we lack, where to go to, where to find your offices, which people to exactly connect with so that we push this agenda forward together. As I can tell you, things are not okay on the ground. People are frustrated, but they do not know exactly who to link up with so that this thing is pushed further. I wish to appeal to you to bring it down together. Do not be there in the boardrooms like making all these pronouncements. Join with the people. After all, it is the voice of the masses that are going to push your agenda forward together. I hope I've explained myself. I don't know if you are able to grasp the context of my submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Well, before you turn to that question, maybe we can squeeze in one more call. That is 0955 997 997 or 0979 192 485. Hello, see you to Voice of the People. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, Timimbera mwauka bwanji. Tauka bwino mwauka bwanji na imwe. Hello. Okay. The numbers are 0979 192 485 or 0955 997 997. You can come through and be part of the conversation. So yeah, maybe you can just comment on what he said.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And well, the concern is everywhere that we are going through a lot of things as a people and as a country. Things are extremely tough, and we appreciate that. Now, you see, I would want the Zambian people to understand that the biggest or greatest opposition to this government should not even be politicians. The biggest opposition to this government is the Zambian people, because we are feeling the pain. We are feeling the high cost of living. So the opposition, yes, they're there to give us the platform for the change of government, but we should be able to remember that we've got one weapon and one weapon only, and that is the vote.
Okay.
So at this stage, we should be able to go and obtain our voters' cards, register to vote, and ensure that we come and give ourselves a meaningful change.
All right. We do have another caller on the line. Hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast.
Hello,
Tauka bwino mauka bwanji na imwe. You can go ahead. You can go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, parendo watoa kwenda kujule wakamba kwini. Tuwa kwa kabu tuwa kama nzona. Magari kuna manje ni akifuta. Bonta ai kosi no living. Ikivuta mazambia zikango zikule pako kuna bwini. I government manje nkitu tandizila government mimi kwera hapo saya manje nikapenda posta chana. Kama manje nikitenga usimpijizo Tonse alliance mgwiza niwe mmetifuna. So hapa kitemba kimu yabe tabagulangu zamana maligari yambe kuone ikatendo kuvala yambe kishaka tena. Sikomo mtenze please.
Zikomo kwambili. Okay, maybe you can go back to your point and just maybe a reaction to that.
Yeah, so like I indicated, tufile bonse twamusenda ma voters cards. Tufile twasita register to vote because panopo tufikile ichalo chonze chifile chaisi but if into nafikosa elo tufile twasenda ma voters cards so as to ensure that twabafunyampo abamagayiza aba pano tufikile nomba fwe bapina tufule twabafunyampo abakangala because taba tutemo iyo.
Okay, so maybe you just have to hold that thought. Hello, see to the Power Breakfast. Good morning.
Yes, madam, mwauka bwanji mwasevenza bwanji.
Tauka bwino, tasevenza bwino mwasevenza bwanji na imwe.
Ule na ukabwino madamu, mukamba na mdenda gift from Choma.
Okay, Mr. Gift from Choma, go ahead with your contribution.
Madamu, nifuno kamba chirungamo. Chirungamo jana njaku chiramda, mwauka bwanji la wenale papa.
Wino bwanji ya gifting.
Ule na ukabwino. Bamudala na njala. Umanyumba muri njala, bamudala muri njala. Banje mukamba simukishiriza apa chamene kufurika kuchita nikugwirizana because Zambia tikaipera kugwirizana sina kwanza kuwachota aba banyama kafu mufunza kimwetwa anachachari pachoma ulipe pamena sita nasi kutoka mwamene wanasira wa CF na manje pamene wanasira wa CF ndio vili pona manje banje batupeleka kuchaba bantu Nekani nikambena mchitonga kuti wanzeri wakopile kuti zine lime mtonga. Aba basanga watu shupala. Aba zile na baganjiwa aba zile ngambura mlanga amara itabora ngu. 5 minutes mara itauka. Hii ndio atula. Amara maro ite kuli kinda tulabelega ngui nkoba belega. Yaka itaji program sibari kwenye na kwenye pati kwenye kwenye itania poza nya kuba. Mubawuza tiwatokemo so mjala nifuna na namba yanu paso lipinde namba yanu nifuna milende aba bamagayiza bakangirwala honorable
Timvera.
Thank you. Nipase ni namba yanu nifuna namba yanu pamina paso.
Oh, okay, Bazami Pastor, thank you very much for coming through. I'm sure by the end of our conversation. So, as the callers have highlighted, what assurances are you going to give to the young voters that Tonse Alliance is still the best option for Zambia's future? So, before you turn to that question, maybe we can squeeze in one more call. Hello, see you to the Power Breakfast.
Hello, mwauka bwanji.
Tauka bwino mwauka bwanji na imwe.
Ina ukabwino. Nanga ba guest mu studio mwauka bwanji.
Bwino bwanji.
Bwino. Ine jine Ivan mpira kucha Zambia. Ine kama pokwamba bamene mukamba ba guest mu studio ni bacho. Manje chamene ngapenze kuri ngakuti atwara kamba kwa ma vota stati ma ikewande naimwe kandi zileni botengorekera tapili vantibeka wakanyuma in the minutes for goal kandi zileko nanga pamene bayuti bawina mabaidi yonse anashiko nitya nditenge ha cut down and find out the reason why so have to verify all those issues what people come about to protect people as far as I'm concerned in the look of things it is difficult for them to remove them from power because they can do all sorts of things. For example, because the brothers so how do you expect to win now? This is meaning that I'm doing. Corruption now, you need to be familiar with the ground. That's my emphasis. You put in my mind the list of words. Because the greatest police in Mukandila is not only the people, but it's the thing which the UPNG are serving to fulfill. Maona, when you fail to fulfill what you promise to people, that is a challenge and the opposition to add on. But normally does. It's a solution. kulise bantu mtani ndete kibebe na makosa kati we are ready to remove this. Okay, palati example bongo mamaki inalezi toja kuma tanyao kujikamele kulima mfungo kihoji wa ipendi ikamela supply mreja wale mtinaleti kitu akavote wangi yesu kwa sala na wewe tete kwa mambo mtani. You see, how can you even that? Just have to sit down, make sure that it is to be controlled and let them be fun.
Okay, so come over, Evans. Maybe you can.
Yeah, you see, it's extremely important to understand the kind of leadership we have today and the fact that they just don't care about us, especially us, the poor people. And that is why, lelo, our Gilbert Wakuchoma wachiuza ati kuri beveno baonako bachitika kuchoma huko. Now, what we need to get to is to understand why these people don't like us. They don't like us, especially as the poor people. Imagine ngombe zili 70 animals but they decide kuzipaya. Why? Because wakambati zachuka from one area to another without testing them, whether they've got infections, whether they are transmitting or transporting infections or anything. Irrational boma nenga tigani zireko before wapaye ngombe zatu bafunika batigani zirako ati okay tenti zitesite ngombe zaneza pezeka na matenda tingazipaye not vijavana manachita. They slaughtered 70 animals belonging to a poor farmer in southern province. Why? Because they don't care about us. The movement of those animals, the rational thing that should have been done is to, one, let's go and test the animals to ensure that we remain on a trajectory of growing the livestock industry. Imagine you've got a president on one hand, one other means that we're trying to grow the portfolio of animals in the country to the extent that is even auctioning animals so as to grow the breeding specs of animals. But you've got his lieutenants on the other hand that is sending, because whatever these guys do, they do it in the name of the president, that is sending, who are slaughtering our animals, moving from one area to another without even testing them. Do these people have us? So we need to know, why is it that these colleagues just don't like us? It's now clear. The reason why they don't like us is because
sorry to cut you off short. Let's squeeze in one more call before we wrap up our conversation. Hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast.
Yes, mwaka bwino.
Tauka bwino mauka bwanji.
Tauka bwino mwaka bwino bwana kufutuko.
Malume.
Ni event kukabwe.
Atibandani kukabwe?
By event.
Okay, go ahead with the contribution.
Namvi. Damene mukamba kate bwino. Manje wata kutulu. Inenezera kwa kabisa. Mu fiuti tikara muvi imwe semonve kabana za karaya soro one common chat. So wala si hata mbati anjara sigati kuteliza baba ifanye hapo very for and to make sure and the truth is impossible for that time to feel really easy, but baba in 2026, people can even start to pay.
All right, Ziko Mokwambiri. Okay, maybe your last comment and
I want to encourage Zambians that our colleagues have failed to run this government, and what I can say is bakangiwa, and they are leaving. And there is nothing they can do to intimidate us from voting them out. Now, Zambians should be very concerned and very encouraged, if anything, that we shall protect the votes even it means with our lives. We shall protect democracy, even it means with our lives. We shall protect the sanctity of the Constitution of the Republic, even if it means with our lives, because we only have one Zambia which shall remain democratic. We are a democratic country with a democratic constitution, and we will need to ensure that we protect this constitution. The leadership should know that the power is wielded in the people of Zambia. It is not their choice to even be there. It is the Zambian people's choice. The same way they were put there is the same way they will be removed. The way they have failed the Zambian people is the way that we will decide to tell them to say, this is not what we agreed in 2021. And we have offered ourselves as Tonse Alliance as an alternative to the government of the day. We are an alternative. Tinazipereka tazileta kuli bantu achandise tizabwera timitandizire. So because of that, the reality is Zambians will get their day. Today is for the oppressor, but tomorrow will be for the Zambian people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming through. Many thanks.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much to the caller. It's been very interactive, and thank you very much to the Zambians.
Okay.
Well, this has been Voice of the People, and our guest in studio today has been Mr. Celestine Mukandila, who is a lawyer, human rights activist, and National Youth Chairman for the Tonse Alliance. Do remember that the conversation will still continue throughout the show, so if you do have any more questions, any queries, you can still send them. But also tomorrow we'll be back with Voice of the People once again. But from now on, the show still continues.
Voice of the People is